Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Estimating Using Compatible Numbers. That's right, today we're going to talk about how this can actually make things a lot simpler for us. Sometimes we run across decimals that look a little intimidating, like, for example, 1 and 1700ths increased by 15 and 8100ths. Now, if we're using compatible numbers, we're basically just trying to come up with numbers that are really close to these two numbers, but that we can compute mentally. So I like to think of this as money. So this is about how much money? $1.17. So is $1.17 closer to a dollar or $2? Well, we know that it's closer to a dollar. So we'll go ahead and turn that into a 1. And we're going to add it to $15.81. Is that closer to $15 or $16? Well, I know that it's closer to $16. So, in my head, it's very easy to do 1 plus 16, and 1 plus 16 is in fact 17. And what that tells me is the actual answer is going to be really close to 17. So let's go ahead and do another example using compatible numbers. What if I have 94 and 6/10? And I want to add that to 14 and 900ths. Now, I'm looking to estimate using compatible numbers. So I just asked myself, I like to think of this as money, $94.60. Is that closer to $94 or closer to $95? Well, it's going to be closer to $95. And then I look at the next number and I ask myself, is $14.09 closer to $14 or is it closer to $15? And of course, we know that it's closer to $14. And now this is a lot easier to do in my brain because 95 plus 14 is going to be 109. So what that means is my final answer is going to be very close to 109. Let's keep it going. What if I had these two numbers? Let's do 33 and 400ths, and I'm trying to increase that by 212 and 8/10. Now, once again, I find it very helpful to look at these numbers as if they were money. That just helps me understand decimals better. So this is $33.04. So is that going to be closer to $33 or $34? Well, I know that it's going to be closer to $33. So let's make that our compatible number. And then we go to the next one, $212.80. Is that going to be closer to $212 or $213? Well, I know that's going to be closer to $213. And so now I can add this quite easily. 213 increased by 33 is going to be 246. So our actual answer is going to be very close to 246. Let's keep it going. Let's do some more estimation using compatible numbers. What if I have 56 and 6/10? And I'm looking to increase it by 23 and 948 thousandths. Let's use compatible numbers to come up with a reasonable estimate. So again, this is $56.60, right? So is it going to be closer to $56 or $57? That's right. It's going to be closer to $57. And then this is about how much money? $23 and roughly 94 cents, right? If we just go to the hundredths place. So is that going to be closer to $23 or $24? Well, we can see that it'll be closer to $24. And now we have much prettier numbers to add up. We do 57 plus 24, and that gives me 81, which tells me that the actual answer is going to be very close to 81. Now, you can actually use this method with subtraction, division, the whole shebang. So let's do a few more example problems. Let's dive right into it. Let's do subtraction. So let's say that we have 8 7/10, and we want to decrease it by 2 4/4. So how much money I got here? Well, 8 7/10 is $8.70. So is $8.70 going to be closer to $8 or $9? We know that it'll be closer to $9. And now over here, $2.04, will it be closer to $2 or $3? We know that it'll be closer to $2. And now, 9 minus 2 is 7, which tells us that the actual answer is going to be very close to 7. That's a solid estimate. Let's keep it going. What if I were to take 47 904 and I were to decrease it by 2 7/10? What would be a good estimate using compatible numbers? Well, this is roughly $47.90. So that is going to be closer to $48. So we'll change that to a 48. And then we look over here. This is roughly $2.70, which means that that's going to be closer to 3, which leaves us 48 decreased by 3, which is going to be 45. 45 is going to be our estimate, which is going to be really close to the actual answer. Let's do another one. What if I have 72 7/75, and I want to subtract 70 9/10 from that? Well, this is about $72.75. So this is actually going to be closer to $73. So we'll use that. And then over here we have $70.90, which is going to be closer to $71. And 73 subtract 71 is going to be 2. So our actual answer is going to be very close to 2. Let's keep it going. Now, what if I were to have 4 67/100, and I wanted to decrease that by 1/10? Let's use compatible numbers. Is $4.67 closer to $4 or $5? We know that it's closer to 5, so we'll go ahead and make that a 5. And then, is 10 cents closer to no money or $1? Well, in this case, it's closer to not having any money at all. So a good estimate would be 5 minus 0, which gives us 5, which is going to be close to the actual answer. I do hope that this estimation using compatible numbers has been helpful to you today. I'll probably do another episode of this, doing some of the other operations. But in the meantime, best of luck. Ta-ta for now.